thank you for coming.
Well, thank you.
This is good. This is great.
Yeah.
Betty, first of all, talk a little bit about your mom and dad.
And how they met, maybe?
Well, who were they? And
Okay, well, they weren't anybody well known, I don't think, but
they are well known to you.
yes, they are.
Yep.
And how they met was I remember my mother telling me that they were in a movie theater, apparently waiting for a movie, and my father was standing behind her. And my dad had said that, when he saw her, he wanted to meet her. I don't remember how they actually met, if they met that night. That I'm not sure, but they ended up getting married, dated for some time apparently back, and this is in they were married in 1925. And my dad had a house built for my mother, or had a house built it was being built before they got married, actually, on Louisa Avenue in West Ellicott. And so that's where I grew up. And, so yeah, that's how they met. And a sister, I have an older sister. And she was...
What's her name?
Eleanor. She just passed away a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So she lived to be 90, almost 94. And my parents neither one of them lived to be old. My mother was only 61 because she had breast cancer, and my dad was 81. He died of a stroke.
Since we're going to do this, we're doing this for your family. Who were your mom and dad? What's their names?
Oh, Mildred, Emma, Beckstrom.
Oh my gosh.
And then she married my dad, who was William Gottfried Blomstrand, and he came here from Sweden when he was 2 years old. And I think he lived on Jefferson's Street, and then they moved to Charles Street. And so he kind of stayed. He went in the Navy. He was in the Navy for 2 years when he was 17. And my mother grew up on 505 Palmer Street. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit.
And what'd your dad do for a living?
My dad actually I'm not sure what he did before, but he was working at a National Biscuit Company as I think they called him a bookkeeper back then. And he found out while he was there working that there was a store that was available to be not bought but rented. And I was just telling, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of the story, but he found out that it was during World War II. And I remember my dad coming home and telling us that we were going to be moving to Sinclairville. And of course I cried, did not want to move to Sinclairville. And he told me, if you stop crying, he said, you can have an ice cream cone every day. And I don't think he thought I would, but I did. I think I had an ice cream cone every day. So that's how we ended up in Sinclairville, because he was working at National Biscuit Company, and that's how he heard about it.
Did he then buy the grocery store?
I think he rented it.
Rented it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So while you were growing up, you had access to food?
Yes, during the war.
Yeah.
It was during, we moved there in 43 and moved out in 46.
When were you born?
I was born here in Jamestown at the Jamestown General Hospital, in that little building behind the hospital. Right. I think that's where my mother said it used to be. And so that's where I was born in 1933.
So 1933, you look great. We really do. So 1933, we go forward to 1941, which would have been December 7th, 1941. Mm-hmm. Do you have memories as an 8-year-old of Pearl Harbor?
Not really. I do not.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I remember more of the war. It didn't. I had no uncles. I had uncles. None of them served in the war.
Okay.
My father did not. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that it affected me that much, because I did not have any family that was in the service. But of course, once we moved to Sinclairville, then I remember a lot of soldiers sailors, whatever, stopping off because that was our only way to go to Buffalo, is through Sinclairville. So, and having the store, I was telling Ellen this, so having the store, of course, it was during where they had the stamps and the rations, and so we didn't have a problem with that. But I remember people coming in with the stamps, the stamps to get sugar and certain things. But they also had what they called punch boards, and that's where especially the men would come in, and they would like punch the boards. And my dad let me kind of watch over that they didn't punch too many. And so I would do that. And what they were punching for is cigarettes because they could not get cigarettes. And so they had cigarettes that they would win if they won certain numbers. Yeah, right. And that was kind of fun to stand there and watch them do that. And or candy bars. I mean, candy. You could get candy. And I know how many times I wanted some of that candy, but it wasn't for sale. So
these, I'm visualizing Hershey candy bars. And were these packs of cigarettes or just cigarettes? Individual?
It was cigarettes, a pack of cigarettes they would win, or they could win, no, they were choice, they could win. It was kind of, it wasn't actually like Hershey's or that type of candy bars. It was kind of the candy that has a toffee in them, and then have nuts around them. I don't know what they're called. Yeah. There's a name for them. That's the kind of candy bars that I remember.
Well, probably if JC and I would remember them sort of Zagnuts or something like that. Clark bars. So you're in Sinclairville. I'm going to just drop one name in Sinclairville to see if the name meant anything. The name is Tugwell. Tugwell. Does that mean anything to you when you were in the Sinclairville area?
Nope.
It's a drop of a name. There was for history people, there was a guy who was born in Sinclairville named Rex Tugwell, and he went big time in the Roosevelt cabinet. You know, he was a big deal. He was on Time magazine and went on to big things, but he was a Sinclairville guy, and it was just always a curiosity to me because most people in our area have no clue about Rex Tugwell.
No,
that name's one name from Sinclairville. We just talked about at lunch.
What? I'm sorry. What did you say?
No, just that Rex Tugwell was a name, and now we know that there's another name you're going to drop.
Well, that's what I think Alan wanted me to tell you about was the call girls, and I didn't know that's what they were called, but I was telling him that I remember that usually on a Friday night or Saturday night, these two guys and two women would always stop at the store. And they were on their way to Jamestown from Buffalo. And I didn't have a clue anything about them, but they were apparently, my mother or dad told me that they were taking them to the Jamestown for these different men's functions they have here in Jamestown. And so I remember my mom saying something about they're called call girls or they're bad girls. I think my mother said they're bad girls. And I remember they were different. They dressed differently. They looked different than what I normally would see. And I saw and so these men apparently were taking them to these stags. They used to have a lot of
stags, yes.
Men's stags. And that's where they were taking them. And I gather I don't know what they were doing. I don't know anything about that other than they were bad girls.
So, but they looked different. Were they all kind of glammed up?
Yes, they always had something around their head. It seems like a scarf or something on their head, and they just had more flowing type of clothes. They just not clothes you see normally.
So they'd be coming from Buffalo area, stopping in Sinclairville, which is sort of halfway.
Yes.
Now, I'm so used to going through, Sinclairville route, it was 60, but 60 didn't exist then, did it?
No, it did not.
So,
not there. 60 went around the store. The store is right across the street from the cemetery.
Okay.
So nobody goes that way anymore, but it was the only way you could get to Buffalo back then.
The only way you'd go right by there is, when I was a kid, you'd go to Cockaigne Ski Resort.
Okay, well,
you have to go through Sinclairville and
Right.
go right by the cemetery. And
right, up the hill.
Up the hill.
Up the hill, right.
Howard Crosley.
So you did go right by the store then, because the store was right on the corner, and the people that bought it from my dad or took it over from my dad, they made chocolate candy. So it was very well known to be selling Kings. I think they were called Kings, and they sold candy there. But yeah, you would have gone right by where the store was, because you would pass it on the left-hand side as you go up the hill by the cemetery.
You also met somebody famous in Sinclairville.
Did you meet somebody famous in Sinclairville?
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, the statue.
Lucille.
I don't.
Lucille Ball.
Oh, that wasn't in the cemetery.
No. But that was in Sinclairville.
Oh, yeah, I saw Lucille Ball. The kids come and saw Lucille Ball's at the hotel, and there was a hotel
In Sinclairville.
in Sinclairville, right? In Sinclairville. You said you're familiar with
Oh, yeah,
Sinclairville,
yeah.
so when you go into the village,
That's right.
it would go straight ahead. And the post office was right on the corner.
Yeah.
And then you go straight ahead, and the hotel was there. So we all went down. There was a bunch of us kids that went down, and I remember there was a light blue, beautiful blue, light blue convertible, and the top was down. And this was, I think, in the wintertime. And we walked in, and she was sitting at a table with, I think it was one other woman and 2 or 3 guys sitting at a table there. And she had a fur coat. Nice, and so I can remember standing, rubbing that fur coat while I was standing.
No kidding.
And she signed all of our, I'm assuming all of our, I did get an autograph on a piece of paper. And I still have it.
Still have it, eh?
I still have it.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know how the boys are going to handle that, you know?
I don't even know where it is right now, so I'm not sure about that.
Well, that's terrific.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
terrific.
so that was it. That was it. Quite interesting. But it's very nice. I mean, she didn't seem to be offended or, with us kids being there asking for her autograph. She was very good, yeah. So.
And so about what time would that have been? This is when you had the store?
It was when I lived there, and I lived there first. I would be probably close to the 45, 46.
Okay.
Because we moved back to the same house that I grew up in. My dad rented that house on Louisa Avenue while we moved to Sinclairville. So we moved back to the same house when we came back.
On Louisa.
On Louisa.
Got it. That's in West Ellicott. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you're living there in 1946, 47. The war has ended.
Yes, it had.
And were you in school there? What school did you go to?
I did go. I went to I'm in Sinclairville. I could walk to the school. The school was walking distance, and I finished my 5th and 6th year there. And then I had Eleanor Bloomer was my 6th grade teacher, and my sister her name was Eleanor Bloomstrand. So I never would have forgotten her. But and then I went to Casadega Valley for my 7th grade, and then I moved. At that time, but there was something else I was going to say about Sinclairville, and I can't think what it was now. When you asked me something about Sinclairville, well, I know. It was about, you mentioned World War II.
Yep.
And my sister was older than I was. She was 5 years older, so she was writing to a lot of different soldiers and sailors. And so they would stop and come and see her. I think she met most of them through, what did they call the mail back then when they were writing to soldiers? It was people she did not know.
Pen pals.
Huh?
Pen pals.
I don't know if that's what they were called, but anyway, I remember 2 of them came at the same time. And one was a soldier and one was a sailor. And I remember the sailor's name. They called him Buddy. They called him something on that. I thought I remembered it. Anyway, so we had cottages. We had little cabins back then. There were 6 cabins that we had, and so my sister and I in the summertime would stay in number 1 cabin, and then when these soldiers and sailors would come, then one would stay in 2 and one stayed in cabin 3.
I'll be there.
And So then when my sister would go out with one, then I'd stay home and play cards with the other one. And that was, and then during the war, I remember that in the end of the war, and my mom and dad would go down and order groceries from Weekly Olson, I think it was called.
Jacobson, Weekly Olson,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
And so they would come down on Tuesday, and they happened to be on a Tuesday night. It was apparently Tuesday the war ended.
Yeah.
And so Ellie and I didn't know what to do, but we wanted to do something, so we got toilet paper out of the storage room, and we'd have the toilet paper. She'd be on one side of the road, and I'd be on the other side of the road, so when the cars would go through, they had to go through the toilet paper that we had strung across. That was our way of celebrating the end of World War II.
Do you remember church bells ringing? Were there anything like that? Do you remember?
That part I don't remember that. No, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
No.
That was a big day. August of 1945.
Right.
The war ended.
Yeah.
So we got you coming now back to West Ellicott. You're staying there. Where do you go into school? When you come back to West Ellicott, are you coming to Jamestown or are you?
No, I went to Celeron,
Celeron.
and I went at 8th grade. I went back to 8th grade, and then I could walk to school because where we lived was very close to the school, so I could walk to the school. And I ended up graduating from, actually it became Southwestern when I graduated in 51. That's when I graduated. But we were not in a school, we were still in our own school in Celeron. And some of the things I remember, I don't know if you want me to talk about some of the things that I remember living there is we had a pasture. The pasture was behind our house. And that's where we would play. We'd play back there. There's a creek behind the house, and there was elderberry bushes, blackberry bushes, all that good. And then there was the pasture, and I can remember seeing a cow birthing a calf, and I didn't know what it was, but I heard this horrible sounding noise, and I was out in the back, and all of a sudden I saw this calf being born, and I couldn't have been. It would have been after I was. After I moved back, I think, yeah. And so, so that's where, but then I also remember when they built the Gaslight Motel. And I felt bad about it because this is years later though, but I do remember when they built the Gaslight Motel. I remember across the street when they put the plaza in, and that used to be Field. Mm-hmm. And then they put the Loblaws Plaza in, and I do remember that was what after I graduated from high school, I think. I don't remember. I was still in high school at that time. So I remember things like that around the area. It was only a 2-lane, of course. Fairmont Avenue was just 2-lane. I remember when the McDonald's went in. So all that stuff that was big news for us at the time.
We take it for granted because Fairmont Avenue was that called Fairmont Avenue at that time?
Oh, yes, it was called, it seemed to me it might have been called Lake Road. I think for some reason, I remember my mother saying something about called Lake Road, but I don't remember much about that. It was, I think, more Fairmont Avenue at the time.
And I'm trying to place Louise near where, Robert Jackson's house was the one which is the Southern Tier Assets.
Right.
The pillars.
Right.
Is Louisa near there?
Louisa more towards Lakewood.
Okay.
It's down by where the Runnings is now. It used to be so that's when it was the Gaslight Motel, and then apparently they tore that down to put the
Sam's Club.
Sam's Club,
Yep.
yes. And I wasn't living here at that time, so I don't remember much about that.
I do, because I was the attorney for Sam's Club.
Oh, yeah.
Walmart at the time. So yeah.
Yeah.
So you're at Louisa, and you graduate from Southwestern.
Southwestern.
And then what'd you do after that?
Then I did not go to college. I ended up working at Art Metal. Mm-hmm. And I was a stenographer. I worked in the stenographic department, and I liked it. I really enjoyed that, and that's how I met my husband. But I was telling Ellen about while I was working there, we would go down to Jamestown for lunch. Not every day, but every once in a while, and we'd take a bus down there.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'd walk back. It wasn't that far, but it racked my brain trying to think. For years, I've tried to think of what the names of these restaurants that we went to. And one night it came to me. It's just like that, it came to me. And we used to go to the Victory Restaurant on Main Street and the Liberty Restaurant on Washington Street.
I'll be there.
And that's where we'd go for lunch. And we always order a grilled cheese sandwich and French fries. That was our lunch back then.
And Art Metal was that on Jones and Gifford at the time?
Yes, yes, it was.
And that's its corporate headquarters.
And I started in the older building. That's when I started there, and then they built the ones that there's now, the Resource Center.
Right.
And so I was there for a couple of years after they built the new building.
And you worked in a stenographic pool? How did that work? Did somebody come in did they dictate to you?
No, actually what it was, we had our own space, our own office little room, and there was probably 7 or 8 girls, and we had Miss Walsh was her last name, was our boss, and they had these, they were black, they looked like they were soft waxed. They looked like they were soft waxed, and they were black, and they were round. And then we'd put them on a machine above the typewriter, and then we'd listen to it. We had here, and we'd listen to it, what he was dictating, and then we'd type what he was dictating, and that's how. And there was 4 or 5 girls in there that was doing this all at the same time, with different. The president, maybe not usually the president though. Larson was the president. Usually he had his own secretary. But the purchasing agent, his name was Herbert Tompkins. That's who I used to do most of the work for, typing for. And I was there for I'm trying to think, about 4 years, something like that.
And that's where you met your husband?
That's where I met my husband.
How did that happen?
Well, I was coming out of work. We'd gone for lunch with another friend of mine that was there. And this girl called us, you want names?
Sure.
Okay, her name was Elaine Johnson. She worked in a different department. And she called me over and she said, "Hey, Betty, I want you to meet my boyfriend." And he had just come home from Korea. And he was waiting for her to take her to lunch. And so she introduced me to him. And my only thought was, oh, that's the Beckstrand name, because I always put my mother was a Beckstrom. I married the Bloomstrand, and then I married the Beckstrand. Well, it turned out that's why I married. I didn't. And so his name was Beckstrand, and so I connected those with the 2 names. And I used to see, my father-in-law had a sign business, and he had a house right on the corner of 8th Street and Main. And so the bus would always go that way to take us to town, and I always noticed that because of the name Beckstrand. Unbeknown to me, I would ever meet him and marry him. But that's how I met him. And they went to lunch, and we ended up having lunch at the Liberty, it was, I remember that. And then, and that's how I met. So every time I'd see him at the North Supper Club was another place we used to hang out and go to. And every time I'd see him, he'd always ask to take me home from skating. I used to go skating up at the Midway. And I would say no because I was dating somebody else. So that went on for a while, and then one night I did say yes, and that's how it started.
So he was persistent.
He was, yes. He kind of, I think he even kind of did tell the boys that, he kind of liked me right away. I didn't know at that time, but I think he told the boys that he kind of.
So you'd met him, he had just come back from Korea.
Just come back from Korea.
That would have been early 50s?
This was in 52, 53,
53, yeah.
52, 53.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, was he older than you?
He was 5 years older than me.
5 years older than you. And so he would have also been in World War II.
He went in, I think, right after World War II. Maybe he wasn't in any, I don't remember him in any battles or anything during World War II. I think he was
So he's
mostly...
probably born around 27, 28?
Pardon?
Your husband would have been born...
28.
28, okay.
June
yeah.
28, yeah.
But like my dad.
Yeah.
And they came in right after the end of the war. you know,
Yes. Yes.
Which fills in the gap that your son was saying, that he would have came in right after the war, assigned to Germany, and sounds like he was in Nuremberg.
He was in Munich.
Munich, that's Bavaria, right?
Yeah, he was, and he loved Munich. And actually, when he got back over here, he did, this is before, he went in the service in 46, end of 45 or 46, I think, from what I remember him telling me. And then he went to Germany. He was in Munich, loved Munich, and then he met a girl over there too, and I think they're quite serious, but apparently nothing. He ended up coming back to the States, and he wanted to go back to Munich, and they told him that if he signed up again, that he could go back to Germany, which he did. So he signed up, and he was ready to, I think from the story I remember him telling me, he's in line, standing in line, and they called out 15 names, and he was one of them. And they stepped out, and it turned out that those 15 guys, they said, well, you're going here, and they put him on a train, and it ended up going to California, and he ended up in Korea. That's how it all came out, that he ended up in Korea. So he never got back to Germany.
Munich, yeah.
And we that's one thing when he retired we were going to do. We were going to go back to Munich. We never got there. We never did.
Well, just for the record, what was your husband's name?
Charles Beckstrand, we called him Chuck.
Got it, thank you. Well, like I say, that's probably makes sense to what JC was just saying, that your husband had mentioned to him that in 46, 47, there were Nuremberg trials going on, so he would have attended maybe a couple of those, being in Bavaria and just coming down and seeing that. So there's a connect here. Here we are.
Right.
They're celebrating the 80th anniversary of the Nuremberg trial, and here you are.
Right.
Perfect. So when did you get married?
We got married in June 54.
So June 54, you get married,
Yeah.
and he's working at Art Metal.
Yeah.
And did you stay at Art Metal during that time?
Well, I stayed there for a while, and then I got pregnant, and I quit.
Then these guys come along.
Yeah. The bar came first, and then he was second.
And all this time, did you stay at Louisa?
Well, when I got married,
Yeah.
then I was living at home when I got married.
Got it,
yes,
okay.
back then, and then of course we ended up getting an apartment up on 18 Shaw Avenue, was up in the hill.
Okay.
And Chuck was working for Parquet when we got married, so he had a car. So we had a car to go on our honeymoon and so
Yeah.
forth. But after he was there for a while, then he started working at Warren Radio. And so he lost the car, and I can remember we were up on 18 Shaw Avenue, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's like
familiar
that.
with Shaw Avenue.
And I can remember watching him walking up the hill, because we didn't have a car at that time until he was able to get a car. And but then we ended up finding out there was a house on the lake for sale. My father had a Green Light Grocery at the time, and he said, there's a house that's for sale, and he said, I think you should look at it. And so then we did, and that was in 56, I think. 56, I think, something like that. And I'm trying to think, 55, 56. Anyhow, we bought it, and it was our first house, and it worked out great because we didn't have a whole lot of furniture, and it was, back then they sold the house as furnished, everything.
Perfect.
So everything, so that was our first home.
And where was that again? Where was
On East Terrace Avenue.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember, probably you don't. Green Light Grocery, that was on East Terrace Avenue.
I don't.
And my dad he was managing that, or had that actually, whatever. And so that worked out good because the boys grew up right there at the store. The bus would, my husband did not want me to work. He said, I want you home when the boys come home from school.
Perfect.
So, which I did, and it was nice because then I did work some for my father at the store. So I was right there when the boys would get off the bus, and then we'd walk in distance. It was real close to the store, so that worked out really well for us.
And you've seen a lot of change over that time period on East Terrace, and
I've seen definitely, like, we just drove back over there, and of course now people are buying them from out of town, and really fixing them up. But back then they were smaller, definitely cottages.
Right.
It was a cottage. But we lived there for 14 years, and we were very happy there. It was good for the boys to be there. They could come home from school and run in the house, get their bathing suits on, and go out, jump in the lake. A lot of times they would
you
do
didn't
that.
care about them. I mean, they just did it.
They just did it, yeah. I was always home there to see them, but yeah, they loved it. I think they were happy. I know they were happy growing up there. I'm sure they were. So that was a.
So you stayed there for about 14 years? Mm-hmm. And then where?
Then we actually bought my father's house on Louisa Avenue. Not the same house. It was a different house. It was further to Fairmount Avenue. And we bought that only because my father had ended up, my mother had passed away. She passed away in '67 of cancer. And so my father was living in the house alone, and then he ended up mowing the lawn because my son was supposed to come and mow the lawn, not this son, my other son, and he didn't, and so my dad said, well, there, I'll do it, and it was just a small little motorized lawnmower, and it was kind of on a hill, and so he ended up cutting his toes. And fortunately, this little one here, he was younger. He was still in school, I think, weren't you, Jace? Weren't you in school? And he happened to be there, and I ran in and got him, and he came, and I run down the street. The fireman lives down the street, which he did, and he came up, and we got my dad to the hospital that way because I had no car at that time.
Yeah.
So that was quite an experience. So he wasn't able to live alone. And so we did bring him to the house to live with us, but that was a little inconvenience because it wasn't that big. So then we ended up moving down and buying his house from him.
Right.
So we were there only 4 years. And then Chuck was transferred to AVM. He was with AVM and transferred to Atlanta, Georgia.
So that
was in '73.
73, you end up in Georgia.
In Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
Actually, Roswell, Georgia, we moved to.
So was that the end of automatic voting machine here, about that time period?
It happened right about that time.
Yeah.
Because that's when, they said, oh, that's a good time, it's a commission, make more money and everything. And at that time, you're right there, because I remember they changed sales managers. I'll mention the name. It was Keith Spalding became sales manager. And he decided that the salesmen weren't going to make any more commission than $7,500 a year. They couldn't make any more. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's what, you've been in sales, and probably you know that. Maybe you haven't, but anyhow, that's how salesmen make money, is the commissions they get. And so that didn't work very good. And my sister lived in Atlanta, and I thought that would be great. But I was not happy down there at all. And I don't. So, and Mark was going to Denison College, first year at Denison that year. And so it turned out for the best for me, I think. We ended up, my husband got a job with National Covenant, no, not National Covenant, what was it, National, the printing company,
Graphics. National Graphic.
National Graphics. It was a printing company, and they sold machines out of that company, AVM machines. So we ended up moving to Columbus, Ohio, which was perfect because Mark was going to Denison, and it was closer to Jamestown.
So what's he doing the whole time, JC?
He was down there with me when Chuck was actually going back and forth there for a while, and he was down there, and he had a motorbike. Was that what they called it? What you had, and he loved that. He got his driver's license. We went down there, and we had a Cadillac, and he was driving that Cadillac and took his test in that Cadillac, and he was 15 years old, if I remember right.
Size of the stable.
And because back then in Georgia, you could get your license when you were 15. And he did, and he took and I think the guy even said to him, he said, if you can park this car like you did, he said, you deserve to get your license. Am I right on that?
Wow.
So he passed it right away.
I always tried to drive one of the smallest cars possible when I did my test.
But he ended up having to give up his license when we moved to Ohio because they wouldn't accept, because he had not had driver's ed in school.
Got it.
So
Where did he go to school? Where did JC go to school?
he went to, he went to Roswell School in 10th grade, I think, 10th grade, 11th grade, to 11th grade. And he made a lot of friends there. He liked it. He was happy there. But I think he was happier going further north and being close to his brother again, you know. But it was me that really I was unhappy. I was not happy there. Because the first move was really away from town.
Denison, my daughter went to Denison's, and my in-laws are from Columbus, so I know it's a short distance there.
Right,
And
from here to there.
yeah, Columbus to there. Granville?
Oh, Columbus and Granville,
Yeah,
yes,
Granville.
yeah. And we lived in Pickerington, which is right outside of
Sure.
Columbus, yeah. So that's how I got
Did
it.
JC go to college?
He did, but he didn't finish. He went to Ohio State for a
The
while.
Ohio State, yeah.
The Ohio State, yeah. And he did move off from away from home. He I think started for home, and then he ended up moving into a dorm up there. But then he ended up getting offered a job at the same company my husband was working for, which was called Business Records Company Corp at the time, because Chuck did change jobs when he was in Ohio, and he did change jobs. He went with.
It sounds like he was a salesman all his life.
He was.
I mean, he had a
Yeah,
gift. I assume.
he was a gift. He did have the gift of gab, I guess.
Well, not everybody has that. That's
Right.
terrific.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
So he was in sales the whole time, and then he was with different companies, but they all sold. By that time, they stopped the voting machines. I can't tell you the year, but they were getting too cumbersome. People were having trouble storing them. They were having trouble. They were so heavy, and that's when they decided to go. I think it was punch card at that time. I think they went to punch card. And so then, of course, he was selling punch cards which, as you know, that didn't go over very well. The hanging chads, as they called them at that time. But he stays in that business the whole time.
No, I can remember doing some legal work for AVM Holdings. I think it was called Tom Hune was the president at the time, Huhn. And that was sort of the end. I mean,
yeah, I think when Chuck was with them, it was the change was over with Dixon and the sales manager was Doolittle.
Right.
Doolittle. Yeah. And then that's when they had the lawsuit and everything.
Right.
And that's when we were down at Atlanta. And so things it didn't go well. And so a lot of people were leaving, I think, at the time. And then I'm not sure when I think they were trying to get electronic voting at AVM there for a while. about that time, and that would have been in 73, something about 73, I think, 73, 74. And, but he was with Business Records, and he was with them, they were selling voting equipment. Both the boys ended up going to working for Business Records. I kind of liked that too, because when they go at a convention or something, I would go, I'd be able to go with
Sure,
them.
fantastic.
So that's, so.
You have an amazing memory. Amazing memory. So at what point did you come back here to our area?
Actually, it was after my husband passed. We bought it. Well, no, I shouldn't say that in a way. We lived in Pickerington, and we keep coming back and forth. Well, you know Bill Present. Bill Present was our good friend, and he goes, "Hey, we're getting together, so and so. You got to come up, you know." And so Chuck would look at me. He said, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "It's up to you." He said, "Let's go." And so many weekends, I think we counted them. It was about 30 weekends we'd end up coming up here when we were living in Pickerington. And so we were coming back and forth a lot. And so then I think it was Mark and Chuck decided they wanted to get a cottage at the lake. And I didn't really know if I wanted that, because I remember living at the lake, and you get a lot of company when you live at the lake. And,
Yeah.
but anyhow, they ended up finding Mark actually found this little cottage up in Galloway Road, up in Mayville. And so then Chuck was at a convention. I went with him to Poconos, and he said, "Do you want to go by and look at that place that Mark was talking about?" And I said, "Yeah, if you want to." So we came by this way, and we ended up looking at it, and we decided to buy it, which we did. So that's where I ended up by myself after he passed away,
Up a Galloway Road.
on Galloway Road.
So you had been there a long time.
So we bought it in '88, and then he passed away in '96. And so we would come back and forth, and we came up frequently, quite a bit. And they loved to fish. We had a boat, and they would go fish. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. We met wonderful neighbors. I'm still keeping in touch with a lot of them. Most of them have passed away, though. But it was a wonderful neighborhood. And so we ended up coming back and forth quite a bit. And then he ended up passing away. He ended up dying of heart. Suddenly we had just left, and we were in Seattle, Washington. Fortunately, Mark and Vandy, my daughter-in-law, were with us, and we were checking into the motel. And he come to me, he said, "I don't feel good." And there was a hospital you could see from the motel. And so we ended up taking him there. He walked into the hospital. He didn't come out. 5 hours later, he was gone.
Yeah.
So he passed. He was, I'm trying to think, he was 68 when he died. And this, so that was in 96, he passed. And so I stayed, everybody said, not everybody, but I was told, best don't make a quick decision for the first year, right away. So I stayed back, and I was going back and forth and coming to the cottage in the summer, and then going back in the winter, and I did that. And for some unknown reason, I was breaking bones, though, after my husband died. My first thing, I broke my ankle, and of course that healed. And then the next thing was I broke my wrist. That healed. This was over a couple, 2-3 years. And what was the last thing I broke?
What was it, your wrist?
I broke somebody else, I think. Anyway, so then I was coming back, and so then I decided in '99 that I knew where I wanted to go, and that was the lake. And so I sold my house pretty quickly. It was a big house, a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. Sold that, and ended up remodeling the cottage, made a 2-bedroom. It was about 1 bedroom, made a 2-bedroom. And I loved it. I loved my cottage. And I was there until I moved to the Connect 55 and 4 years ago. Yeah, so I stayed at the cottage for, how many years did I figure? We bought it in '88 and I moved in 2021. And I was alone then, but like I say, we had wonderful neighbors, and I still do things with the ones that are still living and are still there. It was good years. I started dating. I dated Bill Present for a while, and then I dated Doug Benson for 9 years. So I wasn't like just sitting around. I was keeping busy and doing things.
We've met.
Well, you probably have. I know you did Doug Benson's, what I'm doing.
We did the interview with Doug Benson, and we variously would meet, and he was so impressed with you. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, because now
Putting something together.
yeah, now I put it all together, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Well, both of those guys were classy gentlemen. I did not know your husband, first husband, but your Bill and Doug, of course. This is great. Now talk a little bit about your children. This tape goes for your family's going to want to listen to this. So say something nice about JC and.
Okay. Where do you want me to start?
What, saying nice things? Well,
I have nothing but nice things to say about
so
my.
is Mark the oldest?
Mark is the oldest. Yeah, he's still selling voting equipment. He was with Dominion, but it's not Dominion anymore. It's something different. At the time when they had all that problems, but he's now 71 years old, or will be 71 in a few weeks, and he's deciding. I think he's finally deciding he's getting retired. Am I right? I think he's finally decided he's going to retire. He lives in Asheville, North Carolina. He's married. He has one daughter. Her name is Riley. She was in the Navy for some time. She's just turned 27, and she's single. I don't know that she'll ever get married. She's very happy. She has her dog and her house, and she is going to school. She's got one more year, and she'll get her degree, and I give her a lot of credit. I really do. But she's not interested in men. I never hear her talk about dating or anything like that. And so she lives in Callaway. It's called Callaway. It's near the school that she's going to. And so she's doing good. And my youngest son is JC, and he is a treasure. And he's sitting here right with me. And he's done well for himself. And he's retired. And he's got a beautiful family. Marianne is his wife, and Juliet is his oldest daughter. She just is 31 now, isn't she? 31. And his second daughter, Hadley, is going to be 26 on Monday, this coming Monday. And they both have boyfriends. In fact, Juliet's going to get married in May.
Fantastic.
So I've got a wonderful family. I'm very proud of my family. They're a beautiful family. Good to me. Really, very, very blessed.
Well, I can see why they would be good to you, because you're a good person.
I hope so. I think I am. I'm a good Christian, too.
Yeah. Well, I'm delighted. What's the question I should be asking, JC? What are we missing here?
I think maybe talk a little bit, Mom, about your enjoyment in just the county and the people here. Because I think that, you've been drawn back to Lakewood, back to Chautauqua, back to the county. I mean, this is where you've got strong roots. Talk maybe a little bit about the relationships and your friendships and so forth.
Well, I feel very fortunate that way, too, because over a period, all my friends have passed away. All the couples, all the friends that we had, just about every one of them have passed away. So I don't have a lot of friends that we palled around with and that. But I have made good friends with a lot of their children. And I'm happy about that. Like, I mentioned Bill Present. His daughter Judy and Jim
yeah.
are wonderful friends to me. And Doug's daughters. the three, especially the two of them. I mean, I'm close to them all, but two of them are maybe a little bit more than very close to get together with them. And I have
terrific.
yeah, I do have my friends from I went to work with, went to school with. I still get together with them. So I feel good about that. That I'm not just with because they passed. So now I'm in Connect 55, and I've met some very nice ladies there.
I'm sorry. Where are you at?
I'm at Connect 55 on Southwestern.
Okay.
And it's independent. I have my own apartment, and I'm very happy. JC was helping me find it. Well, both Mark and Jace. Mark took me there first, and then Jace came, and he's the one that said, "This is where you need to be, Mom." And I'm very happy I moved there because I really did not know what to do or where to go. But living at the lake, there was nobody there in the wintertime.
Right.
And so I had to find places to either go, or I, was there, and they didn't want me there in the wintertime. So they're the ones that I said, well, I have a friend that lives at this place on Southwestern Drive. And so I went to visit her one time, but I couldn't see myself there because it was too small. But then Mark took me over there, and I found an apartment that I could see myself in. It was big enough for me. And so then when Jace came that time, he said, Mom, I want to take you, I want to see that place you were looking at. And so he did, and it just so happened that we not bought it, but rented it right then on the spot, to the one apartment that
Wonderful.
And so that's where I've been now for 4 years, and I'm very very happy there. It's a place for me because it's social. They do a lot of things. They follow the music band called the Jays, excuse me. We do that, and we go to dinners, we go to lunches. They have a lot of lunches and dinners and things to do. I would suggest any single person, doesn't have to be single, they've got married couples there too, if they want to find a place. It's a good place. I'm very happy there.
Well, there you go. You're like your husband, a salesperson. I feel like I ought to move out there right now.
It's close to everything. That's another thing that we all like. It's close to shopping. It's close to the grocery stores. It's close to TJ's. It's close to everything. The mall, whatever. There's not much there now, but I'm very happy there. So, and I know Mark is talking about me coming down there to Asheville. And I don't want to, because I want to, as long as I can stay healthy and stay upright, I want to stay independent.
Good for you. I can see why. Look at that esprit. You just got that liveliness that's unbelievable. So I applaud you. Well, this has been special. I'm so delighted that
I said, what do you want? I don't feel comfortable doing that. He said, well, Mom, he said, I think it would be nice. He said that someday my girls, their children, that might enjoy seeing something like this with you talking, being you the one talking. So I hope I haven't said anything to offend anybody in my talk.
What did you expect today? You were coming in and you had lunch with Alan Bozer and JC, and you said, oh my gosh, he's going to ask questions. What's the question you expected me to ask that I haven't?
No, I think you've done well. You've asked me most what I wanted to talk about, maybe, if I was going to talk about anything. You've done well. I've known you, not well, but I've known you. And I know that you did Doug, and I know how happy he was about that, because I know he was very proud. In fact, I still have the tape that you made of that. And so I wasn't afraid, I wasn't worried, but I just wasn't quite sure how it would go. But I feel comfortable. I felt more comfortable than I thought I would.
You did very, very well, and we're going to take a picture of you with Justice Jackson, because clearly at some point, unbeknownst to you, your husband was actually, probably saw him in action at Nuremberg.
Well, I don't remember him saying anything about. I believe if JC said he said that, I believe that.
Good. That's how we should end, right?
That's
She
good.
believes you.
He left high school just a little bit early, shortly before graduation.
Right.
And he was 17, so that would have been in 1945. And he immediately went in, did his basic training, got over to...
Was he Navy or Army?
Air Force.
Air Force, yeah.
Yeah.
Army Air Force.
Yep, Army Air Force.
Yep.
And so he goes over to Germany, gets over there right after the camps had been liberated and so forth, and had an opportunity to tour many of the concentration camps. What he would describe as kind of first wave after the initial, liberation and cleanup. He went to the Nuremberg trial because he knew that Jackson was a Jamestown boy.
Wow.
And so he sat in the gallery, don't know how long, don't know the specifics of that, but sat in the gallery, and saw some of the trial from there. And then ultimately, as Betty was talking about, he was stationed at I think it was a supply depot near Tegernsee, so kind of south of Munich and kind of the resort area. Absolutely fell in love with the region, and to his dying day spoke just so fondly of it. He became fluent in Italian, in German, and was quite good with his multilinguistics, because when he was in Korea, he ended up being a cryptographer, and so he was a code breaker. And so when I was a little boy, every Sunday when the newspaper came and they had the little jumble and the little scramble things in the newspaper, he'd completely go through the crossword puzzle. He'd do the scramble in the jumble. It'd take him 15 minutes and he'd have it all done. But Betty was correct. He desperately wanted to get back to Germany, and they sent him instead over to Korea. He was briefly captured and freed by one of his compatriots. They were actually AWOL for just an afternoon, and got captured and were able to escape. And I think that was the last time he was AWOL. Came back to the States, got back to work, and went on to pick up his associate's degree at JCC and so forth. And sat on the village board in Lakewood, got to know some of the people there, and an individual named Sherry Cadwell, who was an attorney in town.
My boss.
Oh, your boss, okay. Well, Dad and Sherry got quite close because Sherry was the city attorney for Lakewood, village attorney. And Sherry was instrumental. They were hoping that my dad would run for mayor for Lakewood, and so Sherry was instrumental. My dad worked for General Electric for a period of time. They wanted to transfer him to Buffalo. He was like, I'm not going to Buffalo. And so he got to work for AVM, but because of the circumstances Betty talked about with her dad chopping his toes off in the mower, he ended up moving out of Lakewood, and that ended the mayoral hopes, but he stayed on with AVM all the way through the scandals in Texas and so forth, and
The troubles.
the troubles, yeah. So, yeah, that was a little bit of that.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that, because just a perfect tie-in. Sherry Cadwell, when I came back from graduated from law school, I started with Cadwell and Sharp. That was the law firm name. And Sherry was my mentor, without doubt.
Yeah.
And I was the young kid. This is unbelievable how this ties in. And so I was there for probably 2 years, and Bob Sharp from Beach Point, his in-laws, both in-laws, died within like 3 months of each other. They ran a business in Cleveland, Ohio. He retired from the practice of law, went to Cleveland to run the business on behalf of his wife's family. And then Sherry, I'm the young kid. I'm the kid. And we merged with a big law firm in Buffalo called Phillips Lytle. So you may not have known that Sherry's
I did not know that.
successor was in fact Philip Slidell.
Yeah,
You know, and I've been there for almost 50 years now.
right.
But if anybody asks, I mean, my mentor through all of this was Sherry Kevin.
No
He was
kidding.
the guy. He was
Wow.
the-
So if Betty had a bowling league or something, I would sit on my dad's lap during the village board meetings when he was on the village board. And of course, Sherry would be there as a city attorney, you know, if there was anything of any kind of controversy. And of course, one of the bigger controversies was the thought of putting in the mall, for the Chautauqua Mall. And some of the arguments would get pretty heated. And I will never forget, and I don't recall exactly who it was, but one of the other board members, my dad was a very staunch Republican at that time, you know, when the Republican Party was.
Harold Wise was his name, he was.
Yeah, it was one of the Democrats, and they started arguing. And my dad said, "You better go and sit down over there." And they were from both ends of the dais, you know, just going back and forth. So we wrap up, and my dad took crap from no one, and that was the way he raised us boys. You take crap from no one. Nobody's better than you, but you're no worse than anybody. You take crap from no one.
Yeah.
And he had been taking crap from whoever this guy was. And so he said, "We're gonna go and we're gonna hash this out." We get in the car. And we went to an old bar down by the Rod and Gun, it's no longer there, called the Pastime. And we walked into the Pastime, and I was convinced, I was, you know, pretty young still. I was convinced that my dad was going to beat this guy to a pulp. Because my dad had been a boxer here in town and throughout the Navy and everything else. And so they go down to the bar, and he tells the bartender, he said, "You give this guy all the Slim Jims and Cokes he wants. We're going to be down there." So I sat at one end of the bar, and this individual, at one point, they're still barking at each other, and the guy pokes my dad in the chest. And I thought, oh no, here it comes. And I saw my dad step back, say something to the effect of, "Don't you ever touch me again." And I could see him, you know, kind of getting ready to line up, and the guy kind of backed down, apologized, a little bit more chatter, and my dad yells to the bartender, "Give us 2 shots and 2 beers." And so the bartender sets them up, they do their shots, they do their beers, they shake hands, they walk out, they grab me at the end of the bar with their arms around each other. We get back in the car, and I said, "Dad, what happened? I thought you were going to beat him up." And he said, "What you saw was compromise." And he said, "It's something that's not easy to get." He said, "He did not get what he wanted, I did not get what I wanted, but that was a compromise."
Yeah. And
And then he kind of winked at me and he said, "I wasn't going to beat him up." And I think of that story oftentimes because in the kind of heated
Sure.
political rhetoric we have nowadays, that's what I wish we had more of, was more,
Yeah.
let's talk it out, let's come to a joint solution that works for both of us. Neither of us are happy, but at least we can come to some accommodation.
Now they just keep poking each other like they're poking a bear.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Let's take a picture of the two of you.
Yeah,
Right
yeah.
in front of Robert Jackson here. Then for your,
you might have to get on a stool, Betty.
No, he wants his picture.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry, you're not gonna cut him off.
Oh, okay.
look at this, fantastic. This is gonna put you in a different tax bracket. Man. Perfect. Perfect. If you haven't, would you like to take a little tour?
I'd love to see it again. I've been in here one time, and Greg, I love old houses.